Hello, everyone. We're going to start our second part here. We're going to get Halleck's Magazine again with our second student, Evan, involved. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm currently a third-year podiatry resident, getting ready to graduate, hopefully in the next 5 months. And we're talking a little bit about student lifestyle. This is what this whole podiatry mentorship is about, to get students involved, talking and just showing a little bit, a glimpse what an actual student's life is, especially right now in 2021. We've adapted and made some changes, but overall still ongoing. All right, so it looks like we're going to have Evan join us soon. So, hey, how you doing, Evan?
Hey, how are you? Good.
This is the first time we actually meet. So,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about yourself. Where you at right now?
So I'm currently in North Chicago at Rosalind Franklin University of Medicine and Science. So Dr. William and Scholl College, Podiatric Medicine.
Nice. Are you a second year?
Yeah, I'm currently a second year.
Okay. How is that going for you? Is it
Uh,
getting harder?
yeah, it's good. Yeah. We're just taking our second year's classes. And I mean, the biggest thing, right, about second year is part one boards, trying to prepare for that. So.
Yeah. So tell me, is it snowing in Chicago right now, or is it pretty cold?
Yeah, it was actually this morning, me and my roommates, we were shoveling up our driveway. It's definitely a snowstorm.
Oh my gosh.
Winter wonderland, yeah. It's
Is
pretty bad.
is the lake frozen over? I heard like people go frozen lake diving.
Yeah.
Is that
I don't know if that's a thing, but I know people definitely go ice skating a lot. Like the ponds freeze over, the lakes freeze over, and I know that at least there's like one a nice lake 10 minutes away where they open it up to the public for anyone to just like go and skate. But I haven't had the opportunity to do so yet. But I'm sure it'll be fun if I get a
And then, are you originally from Chicago area, or where did you come from?
Yeah, so originally I was from Florida, so I've never seen
Oh
snow
wow.
until I came here, which was pretty awesome experiencing.
Uh,
But yeah, the biggest thing, coming from a warmer climate, transitioning into a colder climate is just it's pretty brutal. Just layering
yeah.
up in clothes.
So yeah, I visited Chicago. I think I visited about 5 times. I thought it was just a wonderful place. I've always wanted to see. I think they do. They have the rivers green on. Uh, is it? I forgot. Irish
Oh yeah,
celebration.
yeah, during yeah. St. Patrick's Day, yeah.
Yeah,
Downtown gets all like really, really like festive and what have you. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I
that,
think last year they had like a huge rubber duck like going through the Chicago River. Yes, it was pretty cool.
awesome. Alrighty, so I'm gonna get started with some general questions here. It's gonna go pretty quickly, but and just to get something started. Why did you choose podiatry?
Yeah. So in undergrad, I was in the classic pre-med track trying to do my best to get into med school. And like during undergrad, things other than studying, I would do like sports related activities. So I was on my college team's ultimate frisbee team, and I remember I got like a pretty intense like ankle sprain after a day of practice, and so I went to like a specialist, a podiatrist, and I was just like fascinated about like how they were able to help me like diagnose what was wrong, and then like immobilize me, and then giving me tips and advice and stretching exercises and what have you. And I found it really cool. I didn't know it was a different, a separate pathway into medicine. Before I thought it was only like, MD and DO were the traditional routes. And then there at that moment, DPM was sort of, placed into my life. I was like, oh, I could definitely see myself doing this too. So
Nice. Did you shadow for a couple weeks or months before deciding,
yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna pursue it?
yeah. So I mean, towards the end, like when I was like, trying to finish up my applications and then submitting them out, I shadowed, MDs, DOs, and DPMs just to get a feel of like what the physician life was like. And when I was shadowing my DPM, it was pretty much the same thing as like the MD and DO counterparts. Getting the privilege to see patients, treating them, and the lifestyle too was also very nice. So
Did you get to see surgery before, like when you were shadowing?
I no, I did not. I only saw like basic, like in office sort of settings. So like debriding of calluses and things like that, nail debridement and yeah, ulcerations, like cleaning up ulcers and stuff.
Got it. So now that you're in second year, you've had quite a round of classes. Do you have a favorite class right now that you choose?
Right now, it's a good question. I would say probably radiology. It's a
Mhm.
very difficult class though, but just the different types of like deformities and just like illnesses and just like seeing them manifest on the radiographs themselves are just truly amazing, and our professor teaching it, he just makes it look so easy, oh, this is this is that, as opposed to me where I'm just like, oh, I really can't see it, but it's still pretty cool even though it's very difficult. But just the idea of just like being able to see and pinpointing what's wrong, what's not normal, I think is pretty cool.
And then, what is your least favorite class? The one that you think it's hard or it just wasn't interesting for you?
I mean, I wouldn't say there's not really any class that's not interesting, but right now we're taking pathology, and I would say that's definitely very difficult for me at least, because you know, there's just so many different like manifestations of illnesses, and not to mention like being able to understand what they look like histologically as well is just a little challenging. So
Yeah.
I would say that one is it's interesting, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely very difficult in my opinion. So I would say that would probably be my least favorite, but just because of how difficult it is.
And then, is there anything going on in your life? Any big changes or plans? I guess you talked about boards, but anything
Yeah.
else?
Um no, just doing school, trying to organize everything, trying to tackle not only completing school or coursework, but also trying to find time to really, get started with boards part one. And then, trying to survive the snowstorm.
Got it. And then, so actually, let's talk about the snowstorm. Do classes still go on? I'm
Yeah.
assuming, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
right now, due to COVID, right, we're all virtual. So, thankfully, not much has been impacted. But I know in the previous years where, when it was very intense, I remember I would get notifications on my Twitter, like the year before joining. I was like, oh my goodness, they're going through so much. So I know at that time, they tell, the priority is the students. So, like, they want to make sure everyone's okay and safe. So when I'm guessing, if it gets very bad, like super, super cold or like really, really thick snow, that they would, be like, hey, classes are, we're putting it on hold. We'll make it up another time.
And our exams, you can take them at home now. Is that,
Um,
or how does that work?
yeah, so basically we have online learning, so everything is through Zoom. I'm sure everyone knows Zoom by now. And then we go to campus to take our exams.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And then, I guess because of COVID, are
Mhm.
all of y'all taking the exam at the same time, or is there like a time zone or limit? Like you go in the morning, some groups go in the afternoon.
Yeah. So our school tried doing that in, I want to say around like August time, where they tried doing it in different time periods. I guess that's when like COVID was at its peak, trying to separate us in different times. Like I remember there'd be one group that goes in at like 7 in the morning to take an exam, and then another group would be like at 7 at night. Because our school is just like it includes so many other different programs. I think they were just trying to do that to, minimize the amount of people in that school. But as of now, no. We're all consistently going into the same time, but they're just separating us into different rooms, making sure we're social distance and everything.
Got it. Um, Next thing, do you have midterms coming up? Is that during spring break, or how does your classes work? Is it trimester or
Yes, so our
bi-semester?
school is more of like a quarterly based system. I'm
Hmm.
still kind of getting used to it too, but like in Florida or in other places, I'm sure they just go by semester. So like fall, spring, summer, but here it's a little different. It's quarters. So like there's fall, winter, spring, summer. So
Got
it's kind of like compounding. So like we have a set of classes, and then like one class will end and then another class will start, and then you just kind of keep going. Some classes will go like finish, like our pathology we started the beginning of second year and it'll end towards the end of our second year. But like other classes like dermatology, which only lasts for like 2 months, we finish that class within 2 months, and then we get another, we start another class, say like pharmacology, that gets like added on. So
it.
it's just each class is like different. I think it's based on like which quarter that it's based on.
And then what motivates you right now, since everything is kind of on standby? What pushes you?
Yeah.
What do you do to keep going, kind of deal?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty fortunate. All my roommates are also like second years, and we kind of just we push each other. Like we're all going through the same thing, and I guess a big thing, at least recently for us in second year, is just realizing, looking at it big picture, like, hey, we only have 5 more months left, and then we're done. So like that's kind of like pushing us, like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I know recently we just started going into clinic. So just, getting our feet a little, wet, and just getting that patient interaction, kind of reminding us like, oh, this is why we're doing it. This is what we're, working towards. So,
No, I hear you. That's pretty awesome. So you're a second year, you're 6 months in. What have you learned in 6 months? Has anything hit you in the face that's like, man, that's a lot, but I can finish
yeah.
through?
So at least for us, and I'm sure like other schools, right? The first year is more of just like your basic sciences. So just making sure you learn the basic foundations, like what's a cell and like what is this, what is that. Second year is more of like trying to apply all the stuff you learned first year and then seeing them in more of like a clinical setting or manifestation. So like learning classes that are, I guess, more relevant, or things we'll see more outside in the real world, like dermatology and pharmacology, knowing our drugs. It's definitely different. At least personally for me, I find it a lot more tougher, because like in first year, at least with all the things we kind of saw all that stuff in undergrad, like, oh, this is familiar, I know what this is, I know what that is. But in second year, it's more of just like there's a lot more things you hadn't seen beforehand, and you're learning for the first time. So
Yeah. What is your typical routine? Like, what time do you get up? Do you eat
yeah,
breakfast? Do you study, work
yeah.
out, watch movies? How is like, walk me through a day.
Yeah, so typically, at least right now, most of our classes start at 8. So usually I just wake up at 7. It kind of takes me an hour to like process that I'm awake, brush my teeth, make a good breakfast that'll make me, last throughout the entire day. And then typically we have classes from like 8 to 12, usually with the different classes. So like, pathology, or, we're also taking surgery classes as well. And then towards the after in the afternoon, we get like a 1 hour break from like 12 to 1. So usually I would just like eat lunch, try to relax. And then at least with our schedule, we have different, like, I want to say, like, activities. So like some of us might have clinic, while like others would have workshops, like orthotic workshops, or like our clinical workshops, where we kind of learn clinical skills. And we're divided into like different groups, like A1, B1, C, D. So there's always something to do, after. Usually that's like from 1 to like 4 or 5-ish. And then after that, I try to study for a good amount of time. I usually try to go to the gym around like 7 or 8, and then come back home, shower, eat, and then try to study until I get really, really tired, which is around like 11 or 12. Go to bed and then just repeat.
What are 3 things that you cannot live without now that you're a podiatry student?
Uh, that's a good question. Definitely food.
Yeah.
Food. Sleep. Sleep, I would say, is very, very beneficial. I still go to bed even if like I don't say I don't know enough, or I feel like I don't know enough. I still try to go to sleep. um and then definitely friends, like a support network, support
Mhm.
group. It it would be very tough just doing everything by yourself or just being alone, just having other people, keep you accountable, keep pushing you, motivating you, I would say is I would definitely need that in order to keep getting through.
Now I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I think I
Yeah.
sent you the email specifically for each student. And
Oh,
for
right.
you,
Yeah.
I want to learn more about Scholl.
Yeah.
What made you choose that? What intrigued you? What caught your attention?
Yeah. So, well, one, I mean, show what their big mission statement is like interprofessionalism. So the integration of like, different health professions working together to, with the same common goal of making the patient better. So that resonated with me a lot. But I remember just like stepping foot onto campus in my first interview, everyone was just very like friendly, lively, energetic, and supportive. I just got a supportive, aura or vibe. And I felt like, I could, learn here, I could stay here. I felt comfortable, and yeah.
And
And
then,
I felt welcomed at home. So
did you have any family over there, or you just pretty much
no.
packed up everything? Did you drive from Florida to
Yeah,
Chicago?
I actually drove. I got a U-Haul and packed all my stuff, and also drove my car. And yeah, I drove all the way here. It was like a 17, 18 hour drive, but it took me 2 days. It stopped, took my time. So
Okay. And daily classes, we talked a little bit about that. But rotation wise, you were
yeah.
telling that it's in quarters. Is that as well for clinic, or how does clinic work for your school?
Yeah, so one of the other cool things about Scholl is that there's our student clinic, which is primarily just driven by our students, right near our school. So the way it works, like we're divided into different groups, but right now due to COVID, we can't see as many cases or as many people. They're just really, social distancing, making sure everyone's safe. But in the past, there'd be a lot more students, and we'd be able to see a lot more patients. Now, though, it's more so like we can really only see one patient, do a basic workup, and try to get them, you know, better in the clinic. But yeah,
And
that's how basically it is. Every week, a different group goes into our clinic to try to see patients and gain, clinical experience.
do y'all do a lot of community service? I think there were pretty big events, or has that changed in the past year?
Um, So yeah, beforehand there was for sure. Like there, we could volunteer for the Chicago Marathon and definitely other events like color runs or 5Ks. But
Mhm.
recently, I think due to COVID, I haven't been aware of really any big events that we could provide service to.
Got it. Besides your roommates, do you see other classmates at all?
Um, Only on like exam days, or typically, when we go into clinic or certain workshops.
Mhm.
There's a good group of us, so we get to see them.
What do you do for fun? So besides studying, what do you do on the weekends or when you have free time?
Yeah. So I enjoy like being active. So I typically go to the gym. That's basically a good stress relief for me.
Mhm.
And then other than that, besides the gym, eating and just hanging out with my roommates, watching movies, goofing
Mhm.
around.
And then, what is the greatest lesson you have learned in the past 2 years?
It's a good question. So, at least for me personally, before getting into, med school, I was always like worried about like, oh my goodness, I'm probably going to be studying so much. It's going to be so tough. It's going to be so hard. But just so far, like what I've experienced, I realize it's not necessarily, the quantity of how much you study, but really, the quality. So, say trying to study something for 8 hours and you not doing it properly or conductive to your learning style versus, 2 or 3 hours using the appropriate learning style or what, fits you best. you can get more out of that than, just slaving away at the books for 8 hours. I would say, figuring out what kind of learner you really are. Like, I realized I'm more of an active learner, where I need someone to like bounce, our lectures off of, like, oh, this means this means that. For some reason, that helps me stick into it more, as opposed to other people where they're more like, solo studiers, or they use like special tools like Anki to really help them, learn the material.
Cool. And then we're pretty much done. That I'm going to ask you one last question, but it's been like about 24 questions already. So,
Oh, goodness.
What advice would you give to an undergraduate or high school student that's interested in podiatry?
Yeah, I would say just, expose yourself as much as you can. Visit as many like podiatrists, see whether or not this is what you think you can enjoy doing for a good majority of your life. Because that's basically what happens, once you choose this field, you're sort of, you got to keep going, as opposed to like our MD and DO counterparts, they get to choose, like, oh, I don't know if I'm interested in this, or, they get to be more open-minded in choosing what they want to be, as opposed to us, we're straight off the get-go, foot and ankle. So I would say, clinical experience, exposing yourself to different podiatrists, because there's also, within podiatry, there's so many different subspecialties, like sports med, wound care. So yeah, that's one thing I wish I got to see more surgeries. Now I just see surgeries on YouTube. So it's better to watch, in person, you get to live through the experience, so.
So I'm a current third year resident. So once you go into your residency, you realize it's hierarchy when you do surgeries. First year, you're going to be retracting a lot, doing all the, I would say, dictations, paperwork, getting the patient in and out.
Yeah.
The second year, that's when, you do start doing a little bit of cuts your first year, especially amputation, infection, wound care. But your second year, that's when people start trusting you and doing more, like, okay, bunions, hammer toes, midfoot. And then by your third year, kind of where I'm at right now, I'm doing more reconstruction, rear foot, fractures, trauma. And I'm in a program where I do so much. We meet our numbers within first year and a half. So in other words, we can graduate within the first year and a half of our residency, which a lot of programs don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And then by the end of your third year, I've done so many surgeries that it's casual. It's not stressful. You think of different ways to fix it. And I wouldn't say I get bored, but at the same time, I was like, oh, okay, it's a crazy ankle fracture. All right, let's go. Like, so you'll get to see a lot of it. And you just have to wait for patience, because it took me 2 years. Now that I reached my third year, I'm like, all right, I feel comfortable. So you'll get there. And I think, thank you for having. Any last questions or comments before we head off?
I'm just trying to remember. You go to Texas, right?
Yep. I grew up in Spring, Texas, north of Houston, and that's where my residency is at.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, I'm really missing the sunny weather.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think once you get a good support system, especially residency, because you realize you have a good study session, but when you're in residency, you're studying 7 p.m. to midnight. That's the only time you can. And then, yeah, it gets hard, man. It's going to get harder, but you can do it.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a mentor. Thank you for the opportunity. I was glad talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
And I'll see you around. All righty? So, take care.